to do business with. These are sort of the unofficial rules of LinkedIn, and this is something that Jomar mentioned and the previous speakers also mentioned quite a bit. And some of the most important things, as it says, be yourself and share yourself, and have a story even if it is still unfolding. There's no rush into actually completing something and then showing it out to the world. So if you're writing a post, a blog post for example, it's not finished, but you post it anyway or show it to someone.
Who here has got a thesis? Anyone here written a thesis? Come on, be proud of it. How many of you have published extracts of your thesis online?
That's good.
How many of you, that's good actually, and how many of you actually shared it on LinkedIn? Okay, so we're dwindling numbers, but you've got a powerful thing there that you've invested your time and effort in, your intelligence, your research, and it shouldn't just be for one person to correct and send back to you. It's get it out into the world. So that's one of the things that Faizan's done as well.
Exactly, and other things that I find very important is value your capital. I mean, usually when you go to job interviews, this is a really interesting question. So, what are you worth? Or basically just ask you, how much are you going to charge me? Or how much salary do I need to pay you each and every month? That's a very awkward question at times, because sometimes you can really risk talking yourself out of the job.
They'll often say, what is your expectation? So,
yeah, that's actually the correct term.
I'll give you a quick tip of what I've done in the past and say, for a person that you've described for me in this job, what you would probably want to budget is somewhere between 55 to 65,000 a month. And then you kind of take it away from you, but you put it, then it's then up to them to decide, are you that person? So that's just a little tip trick. So after you use it, you say, oh, Jomar told me to say that. Only if you got the job. If you didn't, to say that Faizan told you to say that.
But again, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing in life, and so is Jomar, and I think for us, we're at that stage in our lives. I'm still relatively young, he's an old geezer, so, but I've become an old geezer working with him. Okay, so I think we're going to have to wrap up very quickly, so I'll just quickly read out some of the things and mention the key things. Now, ask, give and thank, the golden triangle. Again, we discussed about giving recommendations out. It's also okay to ask somebody to recommend you. And it's also one of the key things that sometimes we forget. Thank them for that recommendation or that endorsement or whatever. Because at the end of the day, they're doing you a favor. They're not doing something for you just because they feel like doing it. Nobody does that. There's nothing free in life, and yet people are doing that. We discussed about connections, and as far as LinkedIn is concerned, we've got 3 different degrees of connection. You've got your first degrees, which are your co-workers, your friends, etc., etc. Then you've got the second degree connections, which often we neglect because you can get a lot of interesting contacts just by referring to your first degree connections. So look at the first degree connections and their connections, and then look at their connections, because you never know who you can end up meeting and connecting with on LinkedIn, because they could be invaluable. And then of course, as we mentioned, as far as LinkedIn groups are concerned, you're more likely to get viewed by an employer if you're a member of a LinkedIn group and if you're active. It's not enough just being a member of a LinkedIn group, you have to be active on that group. Again, don't spam and go overboard with things, but you get the idea. And then of course, building a professional network. And these are the 5 common mistakes that people make on LinkedIn. They're not connected to recruiters. Now there was a guy at Copenhagen Business School that where we did a workshop, and he asked me, is it relevant to be connected to recruiters at this stage of his life? He's just started his bachelor's, and I said, hell yes, because if you're connected to them now, and if you're developing a relationship with them now, when you're looking for a job later on in life, you've invested enough time and energy into that relationship that they might actually help you in your career path. Profile picture. Again, I see that we don't have any examples of bad profile pictures. I do see some familiar faces here who've taken our workshops, so they know which pictures they are. So it's got to be professional. It's got to be something straight and something that allows the viewer to see your eyes. And I can get in depth with that later on if anybody's interested in knowing what I mean by that. Have a strong headline, or a brand line as I like to call it, because that defines to the viewer who you are. And keywords, this is one of the most important things. Now, for instance, if you look at my summary, some keywords are very, very relevant for my profile, also from an endorsements perspective, but also from the perspective when I'm linking up to some people and trying to connect them, because I'm always looking for the common interest, whether it's on a personal level or a professional level. So in my summary, you'll see the words marketing, digital, communications, and LinkedIn quite a bit. And some people aren't connected on LinkedIn, or just don't have their profile public, or just don't do anything about it. And those are the mistakes that a lot of people make. Because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, as I showed with some of the statistics before, 96% of people on LinkedIn are active users who spend 7 minutes and 22 seconds. Okay, so again, I can't go through the video, but as I mentioned before, or we mentioned before, don't copy your CV. Be careful what you share online. It's also important how you word things, because some things you can word in one way, and then you can word it in a completely different way. And again, as I said, think keywords and not buzzwords. There's a funny story to that as well, but if anybody's interested in hearing that, I can share that with you. Don't become stale. And that is the mistake a lot of people make, where they make a standard sort of text and then just leave it there and don't update it on a regular basis. And we mentioned quality over quantity, and that goes for connections as well, because yes, we have over 800-900 connections in our list, but these are connections that we're actually spending a lot of time developing relationships with, and it's not easy managing 800 or 900 people, but if you only have 100 people or 200 people in your connection list, make sure they're the best connections that you've got. And again, getting the best out of your profile. I think the most important thing is setting your goals. If you're looking for a job, that's a clear goal, but as mentioned before, it's not just about having a job, it's also about making sure that you can maintain it afterwards, because you may have a job for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years, but time flies very quickly, so it's always important to develop those relationships. You can get a lot of business intelligence, and then of course, showcase yourself. LinkedIn allows you to do that nowadays, and always be testing. So what should you do after today? Well, decide what you want and why you want it, and how you're going to get to that level as far as LinkedIn is concerned. Rewrite your profile so it educates your target audience. Improve your headline. Get a good picture going. Cultivate your brand. Develop a connection strategy. How am I going to connect with people? And evaluate the benefits of upgrading to a paid or having just a free version of your LinkedIn profile. I have a paid version, and for me it works because I use it in a completely different way, but for most of you I think keep it to leave it at the free version, because you're going to get a lot more out of that rather than using it the paid version. So again, thank you for your time and attention. Please do connect with us, those of you who are on LinkedIn, and if you have any more questions, we'll be here to answer them. And if you have any questions about some of our courses, you can log on to our website, digitalmediaworkshops.com. This is a public presentation, so you can view this anytime that you like. So, yeah.